Many things remain beyond human understanding. When certain events cannot be explained with science or logic, the stories begin to inspire fear in everyone. This is how myths and legends are created. It's especially true in small villages where rumors spread very quickly and people tend to exaggerate in order to be more entertaining. The story we are going to tell you today is amazing and unusual. It tells about how human fear can change reality. Get comfortable as we get started. This story took place in the Far East in a small remote village which is located on the outskirts of the taiga forest. One early January morning, a local resident went outside to inspect the surroundings and was dumbfounded with terror. In the freshly fallen snow, he saw huge wolf tracks. They came straight from the forest, meandered along the road, and then came and went from a neighboring house. Out of fear, the man ran home, grabbed a gun, called a friend, and together they set off on the trail, hoping to track down the intruder and shoot them. What was the surprise of the two men when the tracks of two wolves entered the same yard of local residents but did not go back? Did that mean the wolves were still inside? The men readied their guns and knocked on the gate. The man who lived in this house came out to them. He listened to his neighbors, but then he said that he had not seen any wolves. The surprised hunters returned home, but they were still concerned. Several days passed, heavy snow fell, and now the whole village was covered with fresh snow. Going out into the street in the morning, the same man again saw fresh wolf tracks, which, winding throughout the village, again led to the same house where an elderly couple lived. They again denied the presence of wolves and had no idea where these footprints came from. Panic broke out in the village. No one could explain where these footprints came from and what kind of invisible wolves they were that come to the village and do not leave. People began to retell this story to each other, each time adding their own details. Someone even confessed that he saw two werewolves who roamed the village at night. People were afraid to leave the house. Children were not allowed to go to school or to play outside. The men organized patrol units and went out every night hoping to catch these unprecedented animals that disturbed the peace. When no activity was detected, the men realized their patrols were likely scaring the animals away, so they decided to hide away throughout different parts of the village. After a few nights of this, everything was finally revealed. Sitting in ambush, one of the men suddenly saw what they were waiting for. From the side of the forest, two huge shadows entered the village, apparently two huge wolves, which slowly walked along their usual route. Winding through the yards, they came to the house of an elderly couple and disappeared behind their gates. The men who had been watching them all this time went to the fence and looked inside. What they saw made them freeze in bewilderment. The owner of the house opened the door and let the two huge wolves inside, after which he looked around as if he wanted to make sure that no one saw them and closed the door behind him. The hunters began banging on the gate and yelling for him to come out immediately and explain to them what was going on inside his house. Realizing that they could no longer hide the wolves, the elderly couple told the men their story. It turns out that 2 years ago, while walking in the forest, they found the body of a she-wolf killed by poachers, and near the body lay two pups. At first, the couple thought that the pups were also dead, when suddenly they made a barely perceptible sound. Picking them up, the couple realized the pups were still alive, so they decided to bring them home. They could not tell anyone in the village about this because it was against the rules. Wolves were usually exterminated as they were a threat to local residents and their livestock. Therefore, in secret from everyone, they fed the wolf pups in their house, and then they took them away back to the forest. But contrary to their expectations, the wolves did not want to part with their saviors and often came to their house under the cover of night. There they played and basked until early morning and then went back to the forest. The elderly couple kept their secret as long as they could, knowing that meeting people would not have good results. Despite their fears, the locals were so touched by this story that they agreed not to kill the tame wolves, but let them go back to the forest in peace. After all, they did not touch anyone and even drove other wolves away from the village. Friends, if you liked this story, then click like and subscribe to our channel if you have not done so yet.